battles waged and fought through victory and pain. By test of their courage, our freedom was gained. In homage to those gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun, we vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for Caracom. Though great and diverse be our ethnicities, the bonds that unite us are stronger than these. We dine, we pray, we love, we dance and we play. We relate to each other the West Indian way. Today as a people united as one, determined and steadfast we stand. We look to a brand new horizon, the future now firmly in our hands. Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song.
Welcome, brothers, welcome, sisters, to our program On Target. And as usual, as soon as we start this program, you can pick up the telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything, politics, religion, socio-economic issues, or any topical issue of the day. We express our opinion once we are comfortable with the subject matter, particularly where politics is concerned. And we encourage you can introduce your own subject matter anytime you want. We will stop in the middle of the sentence and take your call. We believe that we have a very good democratic system here. And those who manage the democratic system have been doing an excellent job over the years. Why do I say that? From 1984, we have had election. People have an opportunity through the principles of one man, one vote to select the government that they want. And the side that lost election concede within 24 hours. And there has never been a challenge in the court that make any sense. So obviously it means that all the main political players is very satisfied with the electoral process in Grenada. And that is good. We have a lot of good things for going for Grenada, you know. Sometimes we tear and sear this country unnecessarily. Our image is important. We are a small 2x2 country, and we want to mess around with big players. We depend seriously on tourists, the tourist industry, and a significant number of our people are in foreign lands. So image is important. So yes, we are not perfect. And yes, you have a right to talk about our blunders or faults and mistakes. But I think you have a moral responsibility to not to disfigure the truth, not to camouflage what is correct, and speak the truth about Grenada. Sometimes I know we don't know what we want. I met a girl going on the road the other day and she looking good. No matter what quarter you look at her from, she looking good. But she had a troubled face. She tell me the problem is she man. She said the man don't good. Now we have a habit in Grenada. Men are saying women bad and women saying man no good. And I don't agree with them. Because I think there is good in all of us and a little bad in all of us. And all of us fall short of the glory of God. So I asked her to tell me what's wrong with her man. And she started to fumble. I asked her if he taking drugs. She said no. He gambling? No. He staying out late in the night? No. He beating you? No. He abusing the children? She said no. He like the children plenty. Well, what is the problem with the man? And she don't really know. So I asked her if she man could swim. She said she man is like a fish. She tell me one time the boat capsized and how he swim ashore hours after. I say, your man could blow shell? She said the man is a jab. He like to play carnival. He like to play jab. He could blow his shell. I asked her if she could swim. No, she afraid the sea. And none of the children could swim or blow shell. I tell her that is the problem with the relationship. Let your man teach you to swim. And let him teach the children to swim and blow shell. And your relationship going to improve. You have a good man. But you must have confidence in the man you have. And maybe the man don't know his value in the relationship. You dilute his significance. So as soon as he started to teach you to swim, and he started to teach his children to blow shell, your relationship will improve. Sometimes I wonder if our farmers not in the same position. I am convinced that this is a group of people in Grenada that don't know what they want. And many years ago, I started the process of asking farmers, what is it you want? You're not living in the United States or Japan or New Zealand. You're in Grenada. 110,000 people. 100 and something square miles. A small country. A country in the third world. And in CARICOM, we are considered as a less developed country. So automatically, we have a challenge with economy of scale. You must know those facts. What is it our farmers want? For decades now, our farmers have representation at the highest level of government. They have representation in the upper house. What is it Grenada farmers want? So I decided perhaps we should concentrate on what the farmers have good going for them. And then express my opinion on what I think they want. Because I'm convinced that a lot of farmers don't know what they want. And they join with the enemies of progress and those that always jumping up and complaining. What is it our farmers have good going for them? But it's an unchallengeable truth that Grenada have the most land owners in the region. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is in the world. I'm talking about freehold. You could dispose of your land anytime you want. The land belongs to you. And we're not in a socialist country. We have democracy and capitalism. A free market. So you could plant what you want on your land. Once it's not weed. And just now weed will be legalized or decriminalized. And you'll be able to plant weed. I want the government to give me permission to plant 10 trees. I want about 10 trees. So you have lands. So you could make decisions independent from the authority. Other countries in the Caribbean do not have this benefit. What is it our farmers want? Another thing the farmers have is free extension service. The farmer do not have to pay for the extension service that is available to them. Technical service, extension service. An extension officer is like a conduit It brings information to the farmers and take information from the farmers and bring it to the relevant authorities. And the farmer do not have to pay a cent for them. The extension officer provides technical assistance, advice for the farmers. The extension officers sometimes traverse the world and they have seen different modules and they can share that experience with the farmer. It doesn't mean that the extension officer is a farmer or a better farmer than you. What they have is information that they can pass to you. What is it Grenada farmers want? Government provide concession for you to purchase agriculture tools, equipments, and vehicles. So you can access your land. The farmer have a labor support system. The plants obtained from government is subsidized. So the cost is way below the market value. What is it that Grenada farmers want? Roads is an important factor in any country. Grenada have the best network of roads in the region. And the quality of the roads is relatively good in comparison with the rest of the Caribbean. So what Grenada farmers complaining about? What? You see, irrespective of the problems and the challenges that we have to have the attitude that we use what we have to get what we want. The Grenada farmers, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of technical advice, in terms of assistance, in terms of support system provided at the government that be, is better than all the other countries in the Caribbean. But I think our farmers have poor attitude. The farmer have a market for cocoa, nutmeg, soursop, and fish. It's quite true the price may not be good, or the price may not be what you want it to be, particularly nutmeg and cocoa. The price for fish in Grenada is relatively good, and the market is very good. Grenada farmers cannot supply the market that they have. The price of soursop is very good. I think a pound of soursop is $2.50. What is the cost of production? Some farmers plant the soursop, they hardly take care of it, and it bear in 3 years' time. Some farmers plant soursop, they take care of it kinda, and it bear in 2 years to 2.5 years. If you plant the soursop and you work with the extension officer and you do what you're supposed to do, you would get soursop in 18 months. Remember, you don't have to spend money on labor to harvest the crop. Now we have disease affecting the crop, croton scale. Government have system going and address that. So what in God's name Grenada farmers want? We must ask ourselves these questions. Cultureman, we have to ask ourselves that. You can't complain about the road. You can't complain about extension service. You cannot complain about transport. You have concession. And over the last 10 to 12 years, we double the amount of vehicles that we have. It means that the farmers themselves have more discretionary income. Government has provided a greater opportunity for you to access loan through the Grenada Development Banks. So you could come up with a good idea, come up with a project and take a loan. So I come to the conclusion that there is 2 recommendations I have to make for the farmer. One, The farmer have poor attitude. And the farmer is not working hard enough. Why I say poor attitude? The farmer always crying and complaining. The farmer cannot zero in on what is the challenge that they have in the land. The farmer is not interested in his children helping him in the land, or the children is not interested in helping the farmer. Whatever it be is a question of cultural deficiency in our attitude. If you look around in Grenada in yesteryear, all the people that had discretionary income was associated with farming, particularly in the rural areas. They own the vehicles, they own the trucks, they own the big houses. They were the farmers. And they own a significant quantum of the lands. They educated the children out of the farming community because of attitude. Some of their children never make a day work in their life. They never work with anybody. They have 40 years. They're still dependent on the products from the land by their farmers. So I think attitude is a challenge. And our psychologists, our social scientists have not been able to address that. Some of them are children from the farmers. They went to university, and when they come back, they abandon the farmers. They disown the farmers, and they abscond the village. I think the next challenge that we have with farmers, that farmers is not hungry enough. Our modern day farmers are not hungry enough. Sometimes as a businessman, you have to hungry. You have to be like Oliver Twist. You always want more. You can't be satisfied. When you satisfy, it's not good for the government. It's not good for you, because when you satisfy, you don't expand. So I believe this is things the farmers have to change. We could talk about it. What could the government do more? This one is a significant one, because we always down at the government, telling the government they don't do enough, but we're not telling them what to do. The government have to concentrate on marketing. Marketing is an important factor. And there are basically, from my perspective, two types of markets. Foreign markets and local markets. Because of economy and scale, and because of the quantum we produce, foreign markets sometimes is a challenge. Let me give you an example. Let us suppose the government decided that China asked China to buy ginger from Grenada. And China said they want 2 container load of ginger. Then the government has to stop there and never talk about ginger wrong China again. Because of our size, the quantum we can produce may not be significant enough to pay the transportation to send it away. So we have fish. We could produce more fish because there is a market for fish. We could produce more sauersup. Grenada is the only country in the region that can export fresh sauersup to the United States market. Mexico is always challenging us. They made a bid about a year or 2 ago and they were rejected. But it's only a matter of time. Every now and then, Mexico go back and they're challenging to enter the market. The day Mexico enter the market, well, that is the day Crapo smoke with pipe without tobacco where sauersup is concerned. But let us hope and pray for the next 10 years, Mexico is not succeed. Mexico do not succeed. In the meantime, the farmers need to increase the production of sauersup. Instead of planting bamboo, balijay, and bocano, why not plant sauersup? You see, that's what I tell you about the attitude of our farmers. We have a number of land that is cultivated with the 3 B's. We could put sauce up in it. So I think the government have to look at marketing. Foreign market, we have 4 already. 4 crops going there. And government have to look at transportation. Because of the drop in tourism, the planes that come in to bring tourists normally will bring out sauce up. But if you don't have the quantum, then it's expensive to charter a plane. So if we increase our production and government work more on market to refine the market, then that is a good thing. Another market we have to look after is local market. Why should a farmer go in a restaurant and eating rice and macaroni? The farmer wouldn't eat his own food. You don't have to buy sugar. Honey is a sugar. So a farmer should not use sugar. The farmer should use honey instead. You could burn coloring and all with honey. You know, as this sister, mine Tilita, she daughter bring her to the hairdresser. Because the daughter, after 2-3 years, she don't see her mother. We have a call on the line? Caller, welcome.
Yes, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Afternoon, my dear brother. How are you?
Great, man. We're doing good.
Right. You're talking about farming?
Yes, we farmers. What the farmers want. What you think we farmers want?
The farmers and them, Lord, my brother, let me tell you something. The farmers and them is the thief that handbugging us. So,
You think predial lasting is affecting farmers?
Yes.
That preventing farmers from producing more?
Yes. It trust me that.
So what do you think we could do with that?
Oh God. What we think we could do?
Because you see, we always have to find answers. We always have to sit down and find answers. I know the government have a program with the police. They have increased the penalty for people found with stolen items. They have the farm watch program. They have a whole department, I believe, in the police force now, more geared to predial larceny. And we have a lot of our young men in jail. They send them in jail. So what you think could be done more?
The thing is, no. I want to bring back the time as long ago. I'm telling you, because I grew up with...
What you think we should do then?
What we should do? They come in your garden, make sure you put things in the jupa, and let it clean the land.
Well, you're talking
When
about...
they clean the land, let me tell you, when they clean the land, don't think when the farmer come, he go let you out just so. You know who come and them think that Uncle Gary?
You see, what happened, this is high science. We heard this story about there are few people who could keep in your land to work in your land. This is high science, right? But you have to be spiritual to get into that. But if the farmers are not spending enough time in the land, and the farmers are not harvesting the products, they run in the land in the morning and run back. So evening time, the thief take over the land. So what we have to look for practical methods, because a few people might be able to get involved in high science, but I just 1 or 2. But the majority of people have to prepare to harvest the product, go in the land regular, so they could minimize stealing.
Well,
and it's the farmers and their children that thieving too, you know.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes. Because when I was growing up, we don't know nothing about well, people hardly used to cut grass by the road. It's those farmers and them who had a cow and a pen. They going by the road to see who first go reach to cut the grass to go and put it on the pen. I ain't telling you what they say, them say. I grew up by that. My father he had a year. We take out 17 truckload of cane on the hill.
But you see, in those times, we did not have all this vehicle. You can encourage people now to go and graze cow by the road because it won't cause accidents.
No, you don't
So we
grazing them by
cannot
the
do that
road.
now.
Let me tell you what you're doing. You're going by the road. You're cutting it. You're cutting all the vine, all the bush, and you're bringing it back and the pen give your cows. That's what I know. My father used to do that. My father, they working in Canada. I sure you didn't know they used to make butter and cheese.
Yeah, man. I know about this butter and cheese in Grenada. Always
right where I stay down here.
Always encouraging people to consume local things.
Yes.
So if you get in milk, then you could make butter and cheese, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we, these people and them, we, the young ones are growing up, they know. They're not studying that.
Well, you see, again, let us face it. We don't have much estates as before. We have a lot of small holding, and they're not able to employ people. So the majority of people are employed by government, St. George's University, and the informal sector, the shops, the restaurants, the tourist industry, construction.
Well, the thing is...
So change is a constant thing. We always have to rise to change.
Well,
yeah?
I go tell you by week, I go tell you next part again a little later on. Okay?
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you for calling. Yeah. Yes, you see, we have to have answers. It doesn't mean that we just continue trashing every government that comes, and then we don't know what we want. So when we get it, we still don't know. What is it the farmers want? Yes, everybody understands that marketing is a problem. We have a situation in the world where the war between Russia and Ukraine and the oil embargo that is going on could cause price hikes in Grenada. Now again is a good opportunity for the farmer. You have a call on the line. Caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre. Yeah, Mr. Pierre, I remember where the farmers complain. Like when they go up in the garden and they plant the crop, when time for harvesting, it is difficult to get the produce to come down. But I think one of the things that is good enough for the farmers, they have better roads, they have transportation, they can go up right up close to the garden, cut as much, harvest as much as what they produce and bring it down. And so they have better road now. And what I'm looking at again, a farmer should be like when you plant the thing, you have to go in the market and sell. So when you plant it, you have a market. So then what you have is you sell it straight to the hotel, wherever you have to sell it. Have a market so that you could get your things sell immediately, so you could spend more time in your garden. Because what happens when farmers go in the garden, say 6 months and they come out 9, 10. You have the people either hand see by the roadside waiting for when the farmer left his garden to go and do mischief in his garden. So I don't believe the farmers spend more time, but have more time they have to spend, so that when they plant the crop, they know that the crop will be, when they repeat, will be going straight to that place for them to get the money. When you have to go and sit down in the market or sit where they were to sell it, that's a problem. Because they're spending more time on the selling and they spend less time in the garden. But for the repeat of the produce, they have better road condition. The farm road is much better. They could go up with the garden. And if they might have a transportation, they might have a farmer who may be close to them, they could ask them to go up in the garden with them to bring in the produce. So I want to say, whatever you're doing, you must have a positive attitude. And I would say in life, rain will fall every day. Sometimes rain fall, you produce a lot, you make a lot of money. Sometimes you produce a lot, but you make much money. So that's part of life. Alright, so never give up on something. You know why you're going into it. I just understand life is a struggle. Everything is a struggle. So never they go expecting to make $2,000 or $4,000. So they make $4,000 today. Next time when you reap, you may make $1,500. All that is part of life. So Mr. Pierre, have a blessing.
Thank you, caller. We have the foreign market, and we have market for cocoa, nutmeg, sauersup, and fish. This market is practically guaranteed, although the price is going to fluctuate. Right now, the price of fish and the price of soursop is really good. We cannot supply the market with soursop. But yet, we have a number of farmers that is not planting soursop. And they have empty lands. Some farmers are planting soursop, but they're not working with the extension service. So they're planting awkward varieties. They're planting varieties that could cause some trouble on the market. Now, the question is, if a farmer, what is the cost of production for soursop? You plant the plants, you take care of it, but you'd hardly have risk or cost in harvesting. Now, I hear farmers say they can harvest crop from their land. And if they're close to me, I will tell them they are big jokers. Because we have one of the best network of roads in the region. And farmers have four-wheel drive vehicles. But some farmers complaining about the grass by the side of the road. Because they don't want the grass to touch the vehicle. Well, obviously you buy the wrong vehicle. If you buy a sports vehicle and you want to go up in the mountain with it, you're going to get scratched up by the road. Or maybe the farmer should line the vehicle with cardboard when they're going up in the land. You have farmers doing vegetables in Grenada. Maybe on 5-6 acres of land. They're buying a vehicle for $105,000. They got concession on it. But the farmer's pump cost $3,000. So I ask a farmer, are you thinking upside it down? Why didn't you buy a good pump for $50,000? And then go and buy the vehicle. But the farmers buy the vehicle first. You have farmers in farming since Lanel Canal. But they wouldn't buy a tank. They wouldn't harvest the rainwater. We had a program a couple years ago, several years ago. I don't know if it's the EZ program or a German program, where they was providing assistance for farmers, but at least 10 farmers must benefit. I thought cocoa and nutmeg should have raised and endorse and envelope these programs. I don't even believe that the money that they intended to spend was spent. So you find farmers are not investing back in the land. Remember the days when we get 2 back pay? The farmers buy out all the furnitures in the higher purchase shops. They buy the cash. Their wife get big. She go on holiday. They build nice houses. Ask these farmers, how much money did you put back in the land? Something have to be wrong with our economic education. Something have to be wrong with our investment culture. So the farmers, while they're crying and complaining, and every time they cry and complain, the government give them something. They cry, the government give labor support. They cry, the government give this. They cry, the government fix some road. But the farmers themselves are not investing in the land. And the cocoa and nutmeg representative has been the worst lobbyist in the country over the years. Both cocoa and nutmeg, their boards, you remember, these people have the ability to lobby on behalf of the farmers. And they have representation in the Senate. Over the years, they have been the worst. That is the worst representation that we have had. I've often encouraged them to follow the business sector or the trade union. But it definitely doesn't seem to be seeking the interest. We always argue about predial larceny. Ask the farmer, what percentage of the crops in your land are spoiling because of poor harvesting policies, or poor harvesting practice? That's the better word. Poor harvesting practice. What percentage of the crop in your lawn is spoiling because of rodents and poor harvesting practice? I'm willing to bet it's about 20%. Look at the Cocoa Association. During the cocoa season, which runs from about November to about March, I don't know. I guess a farmer going to call me and correct me. Normally, you should harvest cocoa every 2 weeks to avoid losses as a result of burning, overripe cocoa, and rodents. The Cocoa Association, this group seems to be mad. They seem to lost their head. They're supposed to be experienced people, but they're behaving as novice and amateur. They're still writing when you buy cocoa on the board. So you have to go at the buying point, to watch the board to see when they buy cocoa. They would not put up a roster. So you could see 3 or 4, 6, 8 weeks during the season when they're buying cocoa. And if something should happen that you have to have changes, then they do the correct. I mean, they could ask the police to help them make a roster. They could ask the people in the hospital or the big supermarket chains to make a roster for them because they have workers working in the morning and working in the evening. Now, what could be wrong with this bribe? And those guys bribe you. Those guys have a briefcase, a certificate. But it's the worst negotiators I've come across, and they are bad managers. So we're complaining about predial larceny. But 20% of our crops are spoiling in the field because of poor harvesting practice and rodents and bad management. Now, we have to solve our problem. There is nobody coming from the United States of America or England or China or Russia to help us solve a problem. If they come in with their interests, and their interests may not be ours. So we have to solve our problems. So I ask, what is it the farmers want? And the farmers must come together as a collective and find ways to solve the problem without starting to blame people. I know the government could do more, and the government must try to work with marketing, and they have the extension service. But if the farmers is not going to embrace the extension service, if they're antagonistic towards the extension officers, then how the extension going to function like a conduit? Cultureman, we need answers. And we need people who, on social media, to post, let us solve our problems in Grenada. We spend quite a lot of time criticizing, tearing, and saying one or each other. But why not make suggestions that could solve problems? We recognize that we're in a small economy. So based upon economy and scale, you're going to have problems. It's very easy for you to get macaroni pie and lasagna. How easy it is for you to go to a restaurant and get a vegetable lunch, or get an oil down, or you get some lemongrass for tea, or you get chocolate for tea. We have 5 chocolate companies in Grenada, I understand. But a bar of chocolate is $12. But it's easy to get a packet of coffee for $1 in the shop. So if you pop up in a shop, even the rum shop, you could get a cup of coffee to drink. But which shopkeeper going to buy a cocoa for $12 to take some to make a cup for you? The rest might spoil unless you're paying about $15 for the cup. So somebody have to tell Cocoa Association that you should make chocolate and sell it for $1.50 in a packet. I mean, these guys are intelligent. I always wonder why intelligent people so cocky. Why they don't try to practicalize their certification? Or why not go and speak to one of the successful businessmen? Yes, caller, punch.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my brother, punch, man.
And also to the listening public. I know you'll give me answers. First and foremost, Mr. Pierre, I need answers and I know you'll give me. Why, I want to know why NATO bombed Libya and killed the president and men, women and children. And they said they would have get weapon of mass destruction. That was CIA lies. Iraq president was also killed. No nuclear weapons of mass destruction was discovered. Big lies. Millions of humans were displaced. Thousands of children lost their fathers. The amount of atrocities that USA committed and continue to commit is worse than Putin. Mass insurrection was ordered in Venezuela. In 2015, Obama, March 9th, Obama declared Venezuela a national threat to the world. Yes, Obama that did it. Political assassination started in Venezuela. I say that to ask, if it is only Ukraine people that has blood, our friendly people of Venezuela, they have blood just the same way, and Iraq and Iran. It's suffering, they suffer in the Cubans. The un-American embargo, forced with eyes to see, open them and see the hypocrisy of American imperialism. Thank you, sir.
Yes, my brother, this is geopolitics. In politics, there is no permanent friends, there is no permanent enemies. Only permanent alliances and opportunities. Throughout history, countries have been aligning with one another to fight other countries. We had World War I, World War II, we had the Axis and the alliances. So you always have geopolitical thing making place. In this present era, they say it's not a white cat or a black cat. You want a cat that holding rat. So each countries now have to be careful with the ideological perspective and look at the economy and the position. I believe that Cuba and Venezuela have to apologize to their people because the sacrifice their people have made for them to export socialism is unimaginable. When you visit Cuba and you watch the sacrifice Cubans have made, sometimes it's difficult to stomach. I don't think we in Grenada appreciate and understand the sacrifice Cuba has made to help us in the Caribbean. Irrespective of the 60-year embargo by the United States of America on Cuba, Cuba still train Grenadian medical personnel. And when they are trained, they go and work in America and England, and they abandon Grenada. It's an alliance. In 1932 to 1933, 13.5% of the population of Ukraine was starved by Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin, in the Great Famine, he was accused of starving Ukrainians. They eat dog. They was accused of cannibalism, of eating their own people to survive. And Russia tried to repopulate Ukraine. But it's not easy to repopulate Ukraine. Ukraine have about 45 million people. And Russia only have 144 million people. United States have 329 million people. So in terms of people, Europe and the Americans are much greater in number. The bombing of Libya, Africa was too silent. And the Caribbean was too silent. I do not agree that Libya should be bombed. But sometimes we have to prepare to live with the bear. You like a lamb sometimes living with a bear. Every time the bear watch you, you have to smile. Otherwise he slap you. Africa was not united. If Africa was united, they could have speak up for Libya. I don't blame Caribbean politicians. Because remember, we have the Ship Rider Act. And America could have treated any one of the Caribbean leaders like how they treat Noriega in Panama. But I always very disappointed in our intelligentsia, our university graduates, our historians, and our journalists. They stay silent. They stayed silent on these issues. They could have speak. They didn't have no clientele to lose. They could have speak, but they stayed silent. We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome.
Good day, Mr. Pierre.
Yes,
How
my
are
brother.
you?
Good man, great man.
Yeah, I was just listening to your view there on the repopulation of Ukraine. Now, while I am not going to endorse what Russia is doing in Ukraine, I just cannot help thinking about another place that was repopulated. Have you ever heard of the country called Gaza, the Gaza Strip?
Yes, that's Israel and...
Yeah, it's in Palestine.
Yeah.
And have you been following what has been happening in Palestine for the last 40 years or so?
Of course, we're following the situation in Israel and around the Arabs. Yeah.
And would you agree that the Israelis are, in fact, trying to repopulate Palestine?
Well, we could even agree with that too, yeah.
And how many people have cried out against that over the 40 years that it has been taking place? Can you tell me how many Palestinian kids you saw on the TV running for refuge?
Well, we agree that too. A war is going on there, and you have countries there that does not recognize Israel's right to exist. It's a serious issue. One would hope that these people would recognize that people are dying. But both the Israelis and the Muslims, they're stubborn like mules. And sometimes the poor Palestinians get the brunt of their venom.
Are you aware that as long as you can claim to be a Jew, no matter which part of the world you were born in, that Palestine is considered your God-given homeland?
Yes, I think that is why the Jews first recognize Marcus Garvey. Because when Marcus Garvey comes back to Africa, they get some support for Zionism.
Are you familiar with the story of the siege of Jericho?
Yeah, we heard. Yeah,
Have you been going to church and singing about Joshua blew the trumpet and all the walls came tumbling down? And
well,
all the
you
men,
know, we
women,
come from
and
a
children?
strong Christian background.
Pardon?
It come from a strong Christian background.
And would you agree that it was right, whether it was ordered by God, whoever might have ordered it, to move into a country and kill every man and woman and child? Isn't that what we today call genocide?
Well, the value system changed, you know. Take for instance Mahatma Gandhi. Today we would consider Mahatma Gandhi a racist and a pedophile.
Well,
So with time, value changes.
He was considered a racist even when he was alive.
A racist and a
Now that we
pedophile.
would consider him a racist, he is regarded as being a racist.
And they say he used to sleep with young girls to test his To test his ability to restrain himself.
Pardon?
I said, and they say he used to sleep with young girls, his young nieces, to test his ability to restrain himself.
Yeah, well, I won't really want to digress to the topic of Mahatma Gandhi. My whole reason for calling is to try to make the point that we got to have principles. And we don't just stand up for an issue if it pleases us or who is engaged in committing whatever
But
transgression.
we have to acknowledge that Ukraine is a sovereign country. It is an independent country. And Russia shouldn't be able to determine who Ukraine aligned to. Ukraine is an independent country. It's like the British could come back now and say we want back the Caribbean and advance justification.
You mentioned Libya earlier. Wasn't Libya a sovereign country?
Of course it was wrong then, and we said Africa remained too silent. And even the Caribbean could have speak up more, because Europe would not have gone if Obama didn't agree to go with them.
Wasn't Egypt a sovereign country when the president was overthrown so that a president who would be willing to do the will of the U.S. could be replaced?
But that was internal conflicts.
No, don't, Mr. Pierre, you got to do some more research.
That was internal conflict supported by external forces.
You got to see who is behind the internal conflict.
But that's the thing. When you have internal, like you have internal conflicts, but you have the outsiders supporting it. But the rationale, the justification is an internal conflict.
So are you going to suggest then that the Palestinians are not entitled to a homeland of their own?
Of course they are, but Israel also have a right to exist. And if the Iraq, Iran, Syria, and other countries does not recognize Israel's right to exist, I don't see what much option they have.
But aren't you familiar with the fact that some years ago, I can't remember the exact date, the borders of Israel were defined by the UN, and since then Israel has just been seizing the Palestinian lands and enlarging Israel, keeping people in what they call an open-air prison in Gaza. And the point I'm trying to make, nobody has cried out about that. It isn't that I agree with what the Russians are doing, but I'm saying that if we don't stand up for principle, if we open our mouth only when certain people are the victims, then nothing would stop us. We had one country bombing a city called Nagasaki. They knew what was going to happen.
That's what World War II.
They saw what had happened. They dropped another bomb in another city called Hiroshima, and that person who was president is considered great.
That's World War II. And if the situation in Ukraine and Russia expand, we're going to have World War III. And then all hell break loose.
Yeah, because there's no principle. It's everybody, it's might is right. The Americans were the only ones with a nuclear weapon. They had the might, and so what they did was right. And today Mr. Putin is of the opinion that he has sufficient weapons to be regarded as mighty, and so he might do whatever as he has threatened. It's not that I'm supporting. What I'm trying to say, we need to stand up for principle.
A lot of discussion.
We need, as His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie said, to have the rule of international morality. It's not who does it and how much might they have or when they did it or how they did it. We have to have a principled world. And you know what the word principle more or less means in common language? Do not do unto others as you would not like have done unto you.
But right now we need to condemn the invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign country. And even if it was done in the past and it was wrong, and we accepted it, but the reality is Ukraine is a sovereign country. 44 million people.
That's my only question.
Yeah. Yes.
What about Palestine?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very
much.
much.
You give us a call and I missed that voice.
Bye, Mr. P.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes, we have an interesting conversation going on, and our time run fast. So we have opportunity for 2 callers. Pick up the telephone and give me a call. You could continue on the subject matter we're speaking on or any other subject. The reality is we have 2 options here. Government have to try to get more foreign markets for our products, and it can be great quantum. Because economy of scale, Grenada cannot produce any particular crop in large quantities. And secondly, we have to seriously look at the local market. It makes no sense to me. We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome. Punch.
Yeah, Mr. Pierre, go ahead.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, and the topic is Russia and Ukraine. I said before, I don't think, especially the black people, we shouldn't get into this discussion with Russia and Ukraine. But we are part of the world, so we'll get into it. But NATO been expanding and close to Russia, so Russia feels threatened. It's like your enemy keep coming across your boundary. At the time you're gonna feel threatened too. And Ukraine, do you know Ukraine is one of the most racist country in the world? You just ask the footballers who play for England. They don't have an easy time when they go to Ukraine. And in the middle of a war, Ukraine is still practicing racism. So, and then I don't hear nobody complaining about China, what they're doing with Taiwan. Or leaders in the Caribbean come out and criticize Russia, but too much of them have the guts to criticize China. Thank you.
Yes, my brother. And this discussion must go on. What we do on this program, we provoke discussion. We provoke discussion, and you would like to hear these discussions in the rum shop, on the block, home. It will make our people more understanding. That sometimes in politics, there is no permanent friends. There is no permanent enemies, but alliances. United States of America bombed Japan, as the caller said. Now Japan is America's friend. They bombed Germany. Now Germany is America's friend. And we must ask this question. Why is it these countries that was part of the Soviet Socialist Republic now prefer to join Europe than Russia? And we want to thank you very much for being with us today. And we're back with you next week again between Monday and Friday for another program of On Target.
And to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong. Feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we are stronger than